Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to talk about the back to basics rule set. There was two different people in my live stream from Thursday nights. This is members only. If you want to be here, join the members team on the YouTube channel community page and just come and bring your questions and we get into it every Thursday night. But this night, two different people had different questions on the back to basic rule set and how to maximize winning opportunity within that specific rule set. And there's actually a ton of complicated reasons, plans, thoughts, opinions on this one rule set. So we get into it here. It's probably a 10-15 minute video, jam-packed full of good debate between me and Jim Morgan. So stick around, stay tuned, like and subscribe. And thanks guys for your time and attention. Have an amazing day. Go. Bro, baby, there are certain rule sets that I'm unsure what to do, like back to basics, for example. What process do you think through for the different rule sets? That's a great question. And I think it's kind of an easy question. So Brow Baby, with the different rule sets, every one of them needs its own kind of separate conversation. And so I wouldn't be able to quickly reel that off for you, but I would tell you specifically on back to basics, one of the things I often look for is you're looking for magic because armor in back to basics can be so game breaking. Like think this through with me. If we're in a back to basics mode, for anyone who doesn't know, that means that there's not going to be none of the monster abilities. Oh, hang on. That's not true. I'm getting confused. I was thinking of the one where everything loses its ability. Let's see.
Yeah, that is back to basics.
Is it? Okay. Back to basics.
They lose all abilities.
Yes. Monsters lose all. Okay, so in this mode, magic is super my approach, because if you try archery or you try melee, what's going to happen if I throw armor at you? And armor is always what I try to do. So I do two things in this mode. I'll focus on magic damage and I'll put armored monsters out there, and that combination will usually mean and as much hit points as I can. So I do want my monsters to have armor, but I actually want them to have a really high hit point pool. So even if they have one armor, that's really cool, because if my opponent is using archery or melee, that one armor is actually going to eat a full attack, 2, 3, 4 damage at one time. And so having a little bit of armor on every monster or on the few key frontline monsters, and then everyone focusing on magic, because then you're not going to hit any sort of armor your opponent uses is going to be inconsequential. And that is usually a good recipe. And then if you happen to be able to add to that, for instance, like an Alric Stormcloak or even a Obsidian to get that magic buff, then of course that's going to be taking it to the next level. That's what I do with that one. Jim, do you have any extra thoughts on that?
I was just going to throw in paying attention to stat values per mana cost.
Yes.
So if you can find something with decent HP, good attack, decent speed, and you're looking at, two monsters, one has 4 mana, the other one is 7 mana. Obviously there is a better choice there.
Yeah.
So not even paying attention, because you don't have any of the abilities. So some really good cards that would be better, slightly more mana, well, that's because they have that ability. So now you have to start paying attention to overall cost effectiveness.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
But yeah, the magic and a little bit of armor is also a really good point.
And when you're doing that cost analysis that you mentioned, it's not necessarily always just damage. It's like you can look at one monster might have 2 damage but have 10 hit points, and then a different monster has 4 damage but has 4 hit points.
It's one shot with 1 HP or 2 HP.
Yeah. So you have to think that through. It's like I'm thinking, I can actually think through like a fire team, just as an example. Cards. Fire is one of the teams that I like for a lot of magic. Fire has quite a bit of magic. Obviously blue, you can use your obsidian with the green team. Death has a lot of great magic monsters. Actually, you know what? I can create a good team with magic with any of them. But if you just look at cards like, for instance, Beetle Queen is doing 2 damage for 4 mana. That's pretty great. But she's so easily one hittable. And so there are times where I might do that. But then I might also look, even though I said magic is great in the context of that rule set, I might also go, this would be a pick I would go before that, where it's got 3 magic. And then I actually might, even though I said magic is a great play, sometimes I'll go archery. And but if you do archery, don't do a mix play. Don't do like 2 magics, 2 archeries, 2 melees. That sort of middle of the road play is going to bite you in the arse if they do something like this with, the Forgotten One. The Forgotten One has the, high hit points, so that's going to eat some of your magic. Then the high armor going to eat some of your melee and your archery. But if you focus on 5 archery monsters and 1 melee, they're all gonna, it doesn't matter. There'd have to be like a really unique opponent for that to be a problem for you. And you can get
real quick. Going off of that, I don't think that's if we're talking about back to basics.
Yeah.
I don't think mixing it up is actually that bad, because if you're saying like go like an all-out range thing and like melee, right? You're hitting all of that armor regardless before you get to the HP. And since there's no healing, you don't have to worry about them getting that health back and still having armor. So if you're mixing magic damage along with the range, that's slightly better than doing a pure ranged build.
No, because I see what you're saying, but it's better in the sense that the damage. So on the example, like let's say you had the Forgotten One in the first position, and he's got 10 hit points and he's got five shields. And let's say I played, a couple magic monsters but we weren't going to do 10 damage. We're going to do, in the first round, I'm going to do 5 damage worth of magic, and I'm going to do maybe 5 damage worth of archery. So that's going to be half of your life pool, and you're still alive, and you're still punching, and you're still killing things in front of you. But what I'm saying is it's actually possible to do 15 archery damage if you focus on the right type of archery team, and then you'll burn the Forgotten One down. Because it actually, like monsters like the Scavo Firebolt, where you're getting 4 mana cost and 4 archery, this is possible with archery and melee. Not a lot of times is that possible with magic. Like 5 mana, 4...
Oh, you're saying for fire specifically?
I actually think that's pretty well true across the board. Usually, because of the nature of archery being less functional than magic, you'll find usually that magic is either more expensive from a mana perspective, or actually has fewer resources, like fewer hit points, or maybe a slightly slower or something like that, or maybe it has different abilities but of course abilities become irrelevant in that particular rule set. But I mean, like looking at the fire team in particular, it is certainly possible. Look at this. Scavo Firebolt, 4 mana, 4 archery. Imp Bowman, 2 mana, 2 archery. There's a 4 cost. There's this one, the Goblin Firebolter, 2 and 2. This is very possible to throw out a melee and archery focused team that is a devastating team. But if you tried to do what you're saying, you're just gonna tickle them with the magic, and then you're gonna and especially if we're talking like in 20 mana. So like picture a 20 mana match. Yeah, this is powerful, but you have so few hit points. You have to remember your opponent's blasting you at the same time. And so that's the give and the take, where magic is going to cut to the heart, and it theoretically will be really effective in that rule set, especially if your opponent drops armor. But remember, your opponent doesn't always drop armor. And if they don't, you're laughing with the archery approach, but I actually think it's better to do magic. But I'm saying it is possible to win with a focused archery melee play, knowing that archery often does more damage for the same mana cost than magic will. That's my point. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I completely get it, but like how I was also thinking about it, right? So if you're able to one shot break the armor, okay, it's not much of a problem. But if we're talking about the forgotten one with the 5 armor, that firebolt isn't breaking all of that armor in one turn. So now your second hit that goes in is only breaking one of the armors. So yeah, you can deal 15 damage in one turn. You know, if you have the Jotun as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do 15 damage in one turn, but is it actually 15 damage, or is only one of your 4 damage now breaking the shield, and now you don't have enough to kill him?
This is why I said in the beginning that you should play monsters with high hit points and armor. Because what you're saying is true, but what I'm saying is that not everybody does that. And if they don't do that, I will obliterate them with the archery approach. So you can actually that's where that looking at their prior 5 matches or whatever can give you a sense of what sort of tools they have to work with. Because you're right, if they are going to do a heavy a heavy armor play, which is certainly possible, you can do magic with armor. There are some of those on some of the teams, and it can be very and also have good amount of hit points, like cards like this with like 4 damage, 8 hit points. This is an amazing example of how sometimes magic monsters can be decent tanks. But like Jin Inferni, it's a glass cannon. Jin Apprentice, glass cannon. Beetle Cling, glass cannon. Goblin Fire Mage, these are all very powerful for the mana cost, but they're just so few hit points as opposed to some of these other like 6 and even 2 with 3. And so again, it depends on the mana cap that you're allowed to work with, and it depends on what your opponent can do. And I definitely hear you. That's the power of using armor, and that's why I think you should use armor. But I think the best play, that's why I said I think the best play is magic, but I think in certain mana caps, and if certain splinters are available, archery will allow you to increase, almost certainly will allow you to do more damage for less mana. But you're right. Is it going to land? Because archery can miss. Is it going to be impactful? Because armor could stop you. So you have to weigh that back and forth too. You're definitely right about what your point is. It's just, I think, and I have seen archery can be very effective if you play it the right way.
I mean, that's why I love General Salone so much, because it's like when it works, you just completely stomp them.
In low mana matches, I like this fire team, and I'll go Cobalt Bruiser, 3 mana, 4 melee, 7 hit points. What a beast for 3 mana.
A lot of stats for 3 mana.
Yeah. And then sometimes it depends on how much mana I've got to work with, but sometimes I look at the Magma Troll, because I like that they're both relatively fast with 4 speed. And yes, it's kind of a little bit on the weak side. But one thing that I like to do also is you don't want to mix speeds. Like, to the best of your ability, choose a lane. Pick either magic or melee archery. And then also choose either really, really fast, and in fact, fast is best. Or in some situations, choose really, really slow. And understand that even if you hit second, just making sure you're finishing your opponents can be that decider. It's like because even when there's no heals in the rule set, there still can be heals from your summoner. So bringing in a 99 mana match, I'm going to drop Kitty and I'm going to put 10 mana monsters across the board, and my Kitty is actually going to do meaningful amount of heals. And so it's actually really important that you not kind of trickle damage your opponent. And so I like fast is almost always best. Magic is better than archery and melee, but sometimes archery and melee. That's my opinion.
So the answer is it's complicated.
And that was one rule set. So like the question was kind of like, what do I do with all these rule sets? It's like that was just back to basics, and that's maybe one of the easier ones to answer. So Brow Baby, it's a really difficult topic to dive into. It's a great question for that reason. But it's that nuance that time is gonna, and then what does your deck look like? And by the way, I'm quoting you like stats at a diamond level, and I have beta assets and promo and reward assets that you're not gonna. So then it's a totally different picture for every deck and at every level and for every rule set. And then if it's back to basics, but the second rule set is equalizer. You know what I mean? Like the combination of rule sets transforms that playing field even more.
One bit of advice I have for you is throw some poop at the wall and see what sticks.
That's right.
Sometimes you just gotta grind out games in order to really figure it out. Because again, there's no one answer for it. It's, oh, what do I do for back to basics? All right, well, what colors are available?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can tell you about 3 of the colors, but what happens when it's dragon and green only or dragon and death only?
Is good in BTW. Okay, back to basics should do a magic anti-magic team. Yeah. Okay, so hang on. Betelgeuse is asking more about the back to basics rule set and saying if magic is good, should we do a magic anti-magic team? So how would you do that? I guess with your summoner?
So like Mimosa or
Bortus or
Bortus
or Thaddeus. Yeah, I do that. I do that quite a bit. And even that's getting a bit into another realm, but I like to look for the magic nerfs in a couple particular rule sets, especially one of them being back to basics, where for the same reasons we outlined earlier, I think magic's so powerful, and therefore magic nerfs are quite powerful also. But you have to weigh that against what your alternatives are. Like if you have 99 mana, I would say it's better to play Kitty or Jotun and then build out that approach. Because with Kitty, you can do lots of big mana monsters with tons of hit points, really utilizing the speed and the heal. Or with Jotun, you can focus hard on that archery and get that blast happening, and you'll win just by virtue of how powerful those summoners are. So I would lean towards those options before I would say particularly in a high mana match, as opposed to this, because your question was, Betelgeuse, should I go magic nerf? Yeah, magic nerf's great in that like 30 to 40 mana range, even like 20 to 40 mana range. But as you start to get higher and higher, obviously the game changes so dramatically that you kind of don't want, it's kind of not good enough anymore to have just a rare or just a rare summoner if you get into that 99 mana rule set, especially at the higher levels.
Right, I think it's probably a good idea to assume they don't have a Kitty or Jotun.
You think so? I mean, Betelgeuse has a ton of Chaos Legion packs. I think he probably has one or the other. But I mean, you're right. Like most people probably don't.